The Utah Jazz are 10 games through their season. Some things are working, some things aren't. How long do you keep trying? Maybe 82 games. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. We are here for you daily. We are free. We give it to you on every podcasting app. It's on YouTube, as you probably already figured out. There's a daily newsletter that goes with this show called Locked on Jazz. You can get it each and every day by going to for free in your inbox, waiting for you. Today, you get the exclusive Empty the Noggin, which is my bullet point breakdown after every single game. You can grab it by going to lockedondaily.com and clicking over to the Locked on Jazz team. You can also get any of the other 29 NBA teams you would like as well. On today's show, Cooper Flagg played his first big-time game. We'll look at what he did last night. Ways to improve the NBA Cup, which I love. Kyle Filipowski and John Collins both have monster games last night. The Jazz faced the number one pick-and-roll team without Walker Kessler. How did they do? And what do we think of the monster games by John Collins and Kyle Filipowski? But let's start with how long. I thought this would be maybe the most interesting question of the season. And that is, and it still is to me, we're committed to the 7 players who are 23 and under and developing the skills of Lauri Markkanen and others that are going to be with this team as it continues through. And we're watching the coaching staff build the foundations, as we're seeing with the pick and roll defense and many other things, for what they want this team to look like down the road when they've got better talent, quite frankly. They've got the pieces and they start to really win. And so we're seeing all of those things right now. The next aspect of it, to me, is a question of how long. And when I say how long, it's how long are we willing to try something and have it not work and keep trying it? And how long are we willing to have a player go out there, struggle, and we keep rolling the player out there? And the answer, truthfully, might be 82 games. And that, I think, is going to be the item that takes the most discipline this season, both for us as fans, for the players involved, and for the coaching staff. So let me start with Lauri. One of the things we're trying to do with Lauri is he's not getting enough shots. Late game, we can't always get him enough shots when it's close. The way to do that, because Lauri, as we've talked about on the program, just put context on this in case this is an everyday or you have not been a part of this before, is that Lauri is one of the very few players in the history of the NBA who's scored as many as 25 points a game while having over 80% of his field goals assisted. The others are Klay Thompson, Kristaps Porzingis, and Karl Malone in his aging years. It's just not something that happens, that a player averages 25 points a game, 23 last year, and almost all of his field goals are assisted. Lauri is basically a 7'1" version of Klay Thompson. Comes off the pin downs for 3, takes 10 threes a game, takes 8 to 9 threes a game, and he's incredible at it. His shooting so far this year on the catch and shoot threes are brilliant. It feels like he's having an off year. He's actually just not getting all the shots he usually gets is the only thing, because his catch and shoot game is dead on. He doesn't really have an off the bounce game. And so what the coaching staff is trying to do is to develop a game. By the way, Lauri is 16 of 37 on catch and shoots, 43%. It's brilliant. Trying to develop out of Lauri a game in which he can get they can just call a post up or an isolation at the nail and say, go to work. It is not something Lauri's comfortable with. It's not something he did particularly well last year, and it's something he needs to work on and develop. Well, 10 games into the season, on 14 isolations, Lauri's shooting 15%. And on 11 post-ups, Lauri's shooting 11%. Do we keep going? I think the answer is yes. I think the answer to these questions is 82 games. The whole point of this is it's a skill he didn't have. It's a skill he needs to develop. And now you're putting him in a circumstance in which you're trying to learn it on the fly in a game seemingly at the rate of about once to once and a half a game. But right now, Lauri looks really uncomfortable. We do it. He fades back. He misses. It hurts his numbers. How long? And when I say it's hard for us as a fan, I'm bringing it up because after 7 games of watching him do this 25 times, I'm pretty aware that wasn't working. And so you were like, well, why, how long? And as a coach, you can have the concept of like, okay, I'm going to call this play again, even though it hasn't worked. And that takes some discipline. And then the hardest is for the player who knows it's hurting his numbers. Okay, let's take Cody Williams. Cody Williams has been thrust into the middle of the ocean with the injury to Taylor Hendricks. He was coming off the bench. He was playing kind of a quiet role. And now all of a sudden, Cody Williams is starting and his minutes are just kind of fading and fading and fading down to 15 minutes a night because through 10 games into the season, Cody Williams is shooting the lowest shooting percentage of any player in the NBA who's taking shots, basically. It's interesting what that 10 is, by the way. The lowest 10 shooters in the league, some names in there you would not expect, are Cody, Gary Trent Jr., Trey Lyles, Alex Caruso, Alex Sarr, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Denny Advada, Kyle Kuzma, Russell Westbrook, and Keontae George. Those are the 10 players with the lowest effective field goal percentage who've taken, enough shots to qualify. And Cody, we're seeing Cody's minutes fade a little bit. Cody's being asked to do a tremendous amount of things right now. Cody is he was guarding Devin Booker last night. He's guarding the number 1 defensive player every single night. And then at the same time, we're asking him to try to exist offensively. And he had the nice game against, I think it was Chicago, but he's 5 of 29 from 3 at 17%. And he's shooting 26% overall. And I thought last night for the first time, he looked visibly frustrated, which leads to the same question that we're asking. It's not just hard, how long, and maybe Cody's answer is simple, that in 17 minutes last game, 2 games ago, and 15 minutes last game, they've reduced him down from playing 30 minutes a night to 17 and 15, and they're going to, and he'll still play the marquee guy for the first 6-7 minutes, and that's his learning experience as he's guarding Devin Booker tonight, and he guards Luka Doncic tomorrow night, and then he goes and guards DeMar DeRozan on Saturday night, if that's the right night, I think, for us to play. Is that what our schedule is? I think that is. Yeah. And then we play a back-to-back against the Clippers, and he guards James Harden for 16 minutes, and maybe that's the answer for 82 games. And you just hope that in the process he gains some traction. But right now, he worked last night. He looked out of his norm. He tried a few things, turned it over a few times, did a few things differently. The third one, and these aren't all young kids, it's Jordan Clarkson. 10 games in. Coming off a year in which he shot 41% and 29% from 3, he's shooting 39% from the field and 30% from 3. How long? And this one gets complicated because we need Jordan Clarkson, and you need Jordan Clarkson's buy-in, and he's a good veteran presence around the guys. And on the other end, he's not probably a part of what we do as parts of the foundation for when this team becomes good again. And if he's only shooting 39% and 30% from the field, it's one of the worst offensive efficiency rates of any player in the NBA, as he was last year. And that goes on for how many games till you decide that's enough? These are really complicated questions for the coaching staff, the players, and then I think in turn, as a fan, as you're viewing, I think they're complicated too. But 10 games into the season, this was the number 1 question that I had about this team this year and this experience of the 7 young players, 23 and under, and what you're doing. But I also think that trickles into the Jordan Clarksons and the Lauri Markkanens and development of just like, we're in a competitive environment. We're not just in a lab. And so it has human emotion to it. And the human emotion includes how the fans react, how the players react, and how the coaches react, probably in reverse order. And it's fascinating. A lot of people are asking me like, well, how are you doing? Oh, this is fine. I love basketball. I love player development. I love watching humans. I love watching great players every night. I love competition. I love calling games. This is topic we're having today to me is as fascinating as how you try to pull your team from 52 to 55 wins, which is the hardest jump in the NBA. But this might be also, how do you conduct a lab of humans developing and still keep everything copacetic? Pretty crazy hard. John Collins and Kyle Filipowski had monster box scores last night. 29 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Kyle had 18, 6, and 2. As good as the box scores, or temper it a little bit? A little of both. Next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by my good friends over at Intercap. In fact, specifically, Steve Carter, the mortgage company that's shaking things up by making home loans accessible, straightforward, and personal. And whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or exploring options as a veteran, Intercap is there to guide you. And our own personal loan officer is Steve Carter, and there's nobody I know who puts people first more than Steve Carter. It is the coolest thing ever for me that we get to send you now, I think for the 7th straight year, to Steve Carter. Because every single one of our clients who's dealt with Steve Carter has come back and sent me an email that reads to super easy to work with, got us approved, closed on a house in under 3 weeks. Their app makes everything a breeze. That's from Derek. And Katie wrote, I have worked with Steve on 3 loans now. He gets the loans together quickly and is great to work with. And Carlos sent, Steve Carter is the best, always on top of it. He gets back to you after hours if needed. One of the best companies and persons I've ever dealt with in all of my years. Thank you for a great experience from Steve Carter. That is what Intercap is all about, simplifying the journey to home ownership. And if you're ready to make the move, and even if you're just starting to explore, give Steve Carter a look. They're there to make you feel supported, informed, and confident. Here's the easiest way to do it. Just email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com, and let me hook you up with Steve Carter so that you can get the VIP treatment you deserve and have the most incredible customer experience. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Right now, new customers get a $5 bet on $150 in bonus bets from America's #1 sportsbook. That's right, $5. You get $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or the NBA all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 if you win your bonus bets, if you win your first $5 bet. That's right. It's all at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Locked On and the NFL. Lines tonight, by the way, Boston is an 8.5-point favorite coming off their stunning loss last night. Oklahoma City is a 14.5-point favorite over the New Orleans Pelicans, who literally are going to have to call like a hockey goalie into play for them with the amount of injuries they have. Cleveland's a 9.5-point favorite over Philadelphia, so we got a bunch of blowouts on the board in a very heavy action of NBA games tonight. Phoenix is in Sacramento, so 7.5-point. Big spreads all across the NBA tonight. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. We're free. That's our deal. We're free. We're local. We're your team every day. That's what Locked On's all about. All right, Kyle Filipowski. I'm playing with you a little bit here. I thought they were great. I thought Kyle Filipowski and John Collins were both great last night. But let me ask you a question. If John Collins and Kyle Filipowski went up against Mason Plumlee and the rookie out of Marquette, Ogo Iguodaro, how do you think they should do? Right? Like, that's a little bit, like, I don't want to temper the enthusiasm, but I would hope at this point in his career that if John Collins is being guarded by Mason Plumlee, that John Collins has his way with him. And I would hope that if Kyle Filipowski, first-team All-American out of Duke, went up against Oso Iguodaro, the 40th pick of the NBA draft, who was a nice player at Marquette, but is no Kyle Filipowski from accolades or anything else. He would have been a Duke, that Kyle Filipowski would have throttled him. And they did, kind of. Because Mason Plumlee and Oso Ighodaro last night combined for 21 points and 26 rebounds in 48 minutes. That's really good. From two guys, one of which is not an NBA rotation player and one is a journeyman backup center at this point. Now, Kyle Filipowski and John Collins had 47 points and 16 rebounds. Pretty great. And John Collins is playing so well offensively right now. He is completely figuring out how his incredible wide array of skills can be used. And when I say incredible wide array of skills, John is shooting the three fine. He's 38% on the year, which is terrific. So he's a 6'9" power forward who can play some center, who can step out and shoot a three right now at 38%. Remember, he ended the year brilliantly last year. Who also has a back to the basket post game if you get a switch. And a lot of this league is switching, particularly if you're playing the four, you're going to get switched. And now you can go pin somebody down and take advantage of it, who has a great array of skills of jump hooks, who has a jumping ability that lets him get off the ground with great numbers. It's very impressive. John Collins last night was kind of the perfect array of offensive skills. So they did not guard him on threes. They literally dared him, left him wide open, just left him out there. And he did a fabulous job. And he hit 3 threes last night. He was 5 of 10 on jumpers, which is great. But he also had 18 points in the paint. That's pretty great. So he goes and puts in three threes because they're not guarding him and he makes them pay. And then he scores 18 of his 29 points in the paint, hits 2 free throws and 3 threes to get to his 29 points. That's pretty impressive. He had 10 points in the paint the other night in San Antonio. He had 18 points in the paint against Chicago. He's really playing. He's not getting stuck just being on the outside. He's drawing an average of 2 or 3 fouls. Actually, in 11 games so far this year, he's drawn 35 fouls. It's really great. So John is offensively playing fabulously. Kyle Filipowski is showing that he is physically and intellectually ready to play in the NBA. That's what I've seen out of him. Will Hardy said immediately, he's just big body, 6'5", 200, and they're listed at 29. It feels like he's bigger. At 6'11", 7 feet. He's listed everything, by the way. And he's doing a terrific job of absolutely looking like he belongs and physically not having any problems at all with how he's handling it. He's played last 2 nights. He's played 24 minutes. He's held himself well. He's 10 of 16 from the field. He's absolutely equated himself well perfectly. He had 10 points in the paint last night as well. And he did the same thing when they didn't guard him. He went 2 of 4 and hit one of his corner threes. The question to me on both these guys has absolutely nothing to do with their offensive skills. John Collins, the only question, always the question has been, how do you maximize his offensive skills while having him on the floor defensively? And Kyle Filipowski, the question is whether he can defend well enough. And I think so far he's coming off pretty well. And frankly, let's deal with one of the biggest myths in the NBA. One thing is that none of these guys are guardable. They're all so damn good that trying to guard someone is almost impossible. And then the second thing is that almost all these guys, by definition of being in the NBA, are actually good enough players that they can defend. Like Bradley Beal's always been thought of as a bad defender. Michael Schreier, who writes the Thursday piece in the newsletters, if you haven't got it. Our newsletter, by the way, has a national exclusive daily piece each day. Katie Heindel's been writing a bunch of them and done great. And then Thursdays, tomorrow, Michael Shears comes out, which is always kind of X's and O's and geeky. So if you're a fan of Locked On, you would love it. So go sign up right now at Locked On Daily. And he wrote a big thing about Bradley Beal's defense the other night and how good it's been this year for Phoenix. Yeah, Bradley Beal can play defense. He also can score 25 points a game. But you don't think that Bradley Beal at 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan and one of the greatest athletes in the world can play defense? Of course he can. So Kyle Filipowski at 7 feet and 230 and ability to move with this kind of touch and this kind of intellectual capability, and he can play defense. It's going to get beat every now and then because these guys are impossibly hard. But if you're smart and you play hard, you probably can play defense in the NBA. It's a little overblown. I mean, it can't be Rudy Gobert, can't be Victor Wembanyama. Like, those are like God-given gifts that then if you parlay into something, you're really special. But he can play defense. Now, and last night, here's the Suns. Like, I was super intrigued by this matchup. The Jazz came in as the third best pick and roll team in the league defensively against the team that runs the most pick and rolls. And last night, Phoenix ran 76 pick and rolls, which is a lot. It's not a huge amount. It's the most by anyone against us all year. So that's what they do. And they run a lot of small pick and rolls too. I think that should be pointed out. So we held them to 1 point. So how did Kyle Filipowski and John Collins do without Walker Kessler? We held them to 1.02 points per pick and roll last night, which is the sixth best out of the 10 games we've played. So right in the middle of the pack. And the Suns, it was their second lowest game of pick and roll all year because they didn't have Yusuf Nurkic and they didn't have Kevin Durant. So they're not running quite as many pick and rolls as they usually do. And it was their fifth best out of 11. So right in the middle of the pack. That's pretty great. If with the offensive skill set that John Collins and Kyle Filipowski both possess, they can play defense well enough so that we're in the middle of our pack defensively and frankly not a dumpster fire, then that's pretty great. Our defense was a little bit of a dumpster fire last night, if we're being completely transparent about it. But the problem for our defense continues to be just the amount of transition we're allowing. And last night in the third quarter, we stopped allowing transition, which made a huge difference. Like that's then we could play the game. The thing that's so disturbing, we'll talk about this probably tomorrow, about the transition, and we will talk about this tomorrow, is that the Jazz coaching staff, and Will Hardy's talked about this, and I'll probably play the soundbite tomorrow, has worked so hard to try to fix the defense and break it down, and they're doing a great job with it, except for the fact that we allow people to be in transition at such an exorbitant amount, and they're so good at it that what you do in your half-court defense almost becomes irrelevant. I mean, that's really I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally kind of where we are. That our half-court defense is 12th in the league and our defense is 25th. And it's largely because of the fact that we're just allowing so much transition on a nightly basis. We'll talk about it tomorrow because there's so many good things are happening. All right, last night was night one of the NBA Cup. I kind of love the NBA Cup, but I think there has to be one or two tweaks. Interesting little note on an NBA rule that Ron Boone got right, and Cooper Flagg played his first game. So we still have a lot left on today's show of Locked On Jazz. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. So somewhere between the store and your first month bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. And with Mint Mobile, you never have to worry about gotcha ever again. When Mint Mobile says it's $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So no more text messages that suddenly say to you, this is your bill this month and it's been paid automatically. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you from the premium wireless plan starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk, text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number with you along with all your existing contacts. So ditched overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal. Get 3 months premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer, your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut the wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slow after 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. I love the NBA Cup. Love the NBA Cup. It adds excitement. The court was great last night. It adds something to the league. It's a brilliant idea. 82 games is a lot. Let's spice it up. I say we do it. I say we do a second one in the second half of the season. I say we add stuff to it. I'm all in. But I want one change. I hate the moving groups. What the group play needs to be is that there are 3, it's going to be 8 groups here when we add 2 teams to the NBA. It needs to be back to divisions. We need to have Group C or whatever be the exact same group every year. Build rivalries. Build connections. The Phoenix Suns have won Group C 3 years in a row. Will they get knocked off? Add storylines. We're in a storyline telling business. So let's see what we can do in that regard. Because that's the only change that needs to be made. Last year, the Jazz played the Phoenix Suns in group play, and the Jazz won in a surprising. Atlanta upsets Boston in group play last night. And now next year, when they match up again, that's the storyline. Put the groups static as though they're the same. And when we add Seattle and Las Vegas in the next 2 or 3 years, we go to 4 groups. We go to 8 groups. Those 8 advance. They're the 4 teams. Those are the 4 divisions. That creates the rivalries. That creates the fun. Bring back divisions and rivalries. The biggest mistake this league made is they went to conferences over divisions. They should have gone to one league and divisions and then had a 16-team playoff that was just the 16 best teams, particularly this year when 11 of the top 15 teams are all Western Conference teams. That's what the league should have done. And it was a mistake. And Adam Silver's forward thinking and the fact he didn't do it, surprising to me. But instead, we went and diminished the value of divisions, which is actually the only rivalries you can have. And think about the NFL. They've somehow kept the fact that when the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys all play, it's all an NFC East battle. Or when the NFC North goes and bloodbaths each other, Chicago and Minnesota and Green Bay, like they've kept it. They're brilliant. And we need the groups to be built, and I don't actually care how they're built. And frankly, they could be an Eastern-Western Conference mix, which I think would be exciting. But just have them be the same every single year. Build the groups, and some years your group will be the group of death, using a soccer term. And some years a group will be terrible. Happens. It's going to be even more so when we go to 8. And only have 4 teams and have a smaller sample size. But that's the problem with the NBA Cup. Is that we're not building any history, any storylines, or any track record. And what one group is and the other is I'm driving home last night listening to Locked On NBA from the Day Show with Doug Branson and Matt Moore and Hayes, and they're talking about the loaded groups, and I don't know the groups that are in the Western Conference, and I'm an NBA play-by-play announcer, and that's a problem. I didn't know our group entirely until the night before when I prepped. But I should know that our group is the same group it's always been. It's the Northwest Division. It's Oklahoma City, and it's Minnesota, and it's Portland, and it's Utah, and it's Denver. And that's our group. And the Pacific Division, the 2 LA schools, Golden State, Sacramento schools, teams, and Phoenix are a group. And then the Midwestern, Western Conference teams are the other group. That's 100% what it should be. It would be way better. Cooper Flagg last night, 26 points, 12 rebounds. He played all 20 minutes of the second half. He did have 2 turnovers late and didn't box a guy out late in the game. And Kentucky, under Mark Pope, and all their veterans and their 50-year seniors and their anti-Calipari recruiting beat Duke in that game. But Cooper Flagg's opening game of his college career at 17 years old still, 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 of 19 from the field. I'll have to watch Rutgers when they're coming up, though. I think Ace Bailey and the other kid, Harper, one of them had an injury and is out for a little while. But the college season is getting underway. NBA, Locked On NBA Big Board will be covering this top to bottom. But that's so 3 mistakes late by Flagg, who's 17. But he had 26 points and 12 rebounds in his Duke debut against Kentucky. It's probably about as big time a matchup as you can possibly have. Kind of awesome on that one. All right, that I think wraps us. I teased one other thing, and now I don't remember it. I did this to you yesterday, too. I teased something and then never got to it. It's a weakness. I'm going to send you now to the first ever national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. It's 24/7. It's up on News Local Now. It's on News On. It's on Amazon Fire TV. Also, you can go grab it. It's really fun. It's just one NBA show after another after another. If you have not followed or subscribed to the show, please do. Right now is the time to do it. Hit follow, hit subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit that bell button so you're notified. And if you've not gone to Locked On Daily yet to sign up for our newsletter, please do that as well. We're trying to catch Nick. We're rolling. We're winning the open rate battle because you guys are awesome. Today, you get the exclusive Empty the Noggin, and we'll do some late game watching tonight, so I'll probably have that for you tomorrow as well. And you get the national article from Katie Heindel today. I think it's about Joel Embiid. And then tomorrow you get Mike Shears from Basketball Poetry's great X's and O's breakdown. He's very Zach Lowe-esque if you're missing Zach Lowe. So have a great one. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you're on audio, check out our 2 editions of Locked On NBA every day. Have a great one.